Bonjour, hello, salam, ani. What a great privilege it is to be at the UN for the 61st gathering of this kind, where people from all over the world come together. They put their differences aside and they focus on a movement that's been passed down to us for generations, a movement that is so noble, because we know that when women and girls and people of different genders are empowered and enabled, society benefits, communities benefit, and in today's globalized reality, when one part of the world is hurting, we are all hurting. And so to be in a room with so many advocates and leaders is a great honor, Mr. Chair. I'd also like to thank our UN Ambassador, Marc-Andre. Thank you so much for hosting us here today and for all the good work that you do on behalf of Canada here at the United Nations. Could I ask my provincial and territorial counterparts, the ministers who are in the room, who hold really important portfolios when it comes to gender equality, could you rise? If you're a representative of a minister, please do the same and rise so that people know. Celine is here, the Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of International Development. We have the Minister from Ontario. We have the Minister from Nova Scotia. Do we have Minister Dennis? She's in a session. So I hope you take the opportunity to connect with our colleagues here and get to know them. How many NGO reps in the room? Could you raise your hands? Okay. You are the heart of the women's movement, so thank you for your ongoing advocacy every day. How many private sector folks in the room right now? Raise your hands. Other public sector? Okay. Media? All right, so it's just us. Perfect. I'm representing proudly a country that has done great things when it comes to human rights and the protection and the advocacy of members of vulnerable groups, including those of LGBTQ2 communities. We've taken some steps forward in Canada. I'm here to talk about some of those steps, but I also recognize that we have a significant amount of work to do. There are people here from Status of Women Canada who are going to stay in the room and take some notes, because Canada comes to this place also with a great deal of humility. We know that as the country of the Charter of Rights and Freedoms, we are doing important work. We know that we have a responsibility on the international stage, and so my colleague's announcement of $650 million for sexual and reproductive health and rights was very well received, and so we're doing what we can, where we can, but we recognize that here at the Commission, in rooms like this, there are stories and there's a lot of wisdom that Canada needs to benefit from. So I thank you for being here. I hope you share your stories with us. The rights that have been extended to lesbian, bisexual, and transgendered women will have to make a difference in the quality of life and future prosperity, and they have. Without question, there's more work to be done to improve access to government services, in particular for transgender women. But we know that in Canada, our track record is strong and strengthening. For example, same-sex partners have full access to federal programs and services, including parental benefits and government pensions. To address the basic rights of transgender and gender non-conforming peoples in Canada, our government's moved legislation to explicitly include gender identity and gender expression in the Canadian Human Rights Act, and to ensure that hate speech on gender equality or gender expression is an offense under our criminal code. Our Prime Minister, an openly and proudly feminist Prime Minister, who reminds us of why it's important to include men and boys in the conversation for gender equality, has appointed a special advisor on LGBTQ issues, will bring a critical lens to the work that our government's doing to support Canadians, but also to show that leadership on the international stage. Our same Prime Minister has struck a Youth Advisory Council whose perspectives on gender, sexuality, and what it means to be a young person today will continue to bring Canada to the forefront of progressive public policy. I want to pause for a moment and talk about youth, How many of you were here for the UN Youth Gathering yesterday and the day before? Stand up, stand up. So incredibly proud. This is our future. These are the leaders of today, and I'm so proud. Thank you very much. Over 700 young people from 85 different countries gathered for the last few days for what you heard the UN Women Head call a fountain of ideas. And the declaration that they presented us with, what I was struck by the most was that you explicitly asked that we take into account that gender is not binary. We're not talking about women and men anymore in the fight for gender equality, because in doing so we are leaving out significant and marginalized peoples without whose gifts we will not achieve our full potential. I was so proud to be in that room with you yesterday, and I was fighting back tears because I know that the gender equality movement is in good hands with you. So your work and our work in Canada, these are positive steps, but significant work needs to continue to focus on gender-based violence. We know that LGBTQ people are overall especially vulnerable to violence rooted in misogyny and other gender stereotypes. These threats to their safety also put their economic security at risk. Now, our government is committed to addressing gender-based violence in all its forms, and we'll be presenting our first ever federal strategy to address gender-based violence in the coming weeks. I just want to emphasize, Canada is about to celebrate its 150th birthday, and this is our first ever federal strategy designed to address and prevent gender-based violence, an issue that some would say is as old as time. One of the most critical tools that we have as a government to address the needs of LBT women is the use of gender-based analysis, affectionately known as GBA+. This tool helps to ensure that federal government's decisions about policies, programs, and legislations are made with a full understanding of the impacts on Canadians in all their diversity. In Canada, we've added a plus to recognize that equality also includes ability and exceptionalities, race, income status, immigration, education, regionality, so whether you live in a rural area, a remote area, or an urban area, as well as indigeneity. I'm proud of the work that our government's done, because equality is not only a core value to our country, but we're also determined to walk the talk by empowering all women and people of all genders to succeed as themselves, but also within their families, in their workplaces, in their communities, and in their countries. We also hope to inspire young people, women and girls, and people of different genders along the way, because we know they're watching. In Canada, we know that economic security and prosperity of LBT women is not only a right, but it's that this security in turn plays an important role in contributing to the overall prosperity of our country. I was mentioning to the panel before, my ancestral land is Afghanistan. And Afghanistan, for all its resilience and for all the gifts that it continues to contribute to the world, is an important reminder of what happens when we leave half of the population out of any conversation. What happens when we leave half of the population out of the economy and out of society? We rob ourselves of the resilience and the gifts that they bring, and so we won't be as able to meet the challenges of this new order that we all belong to. Collaborating with Canada's friends and partners, we'll be sharing the same messages and hoping to learn from you. So I know that we're on a path forward. I know that because of what I saw yesterday in that room full of young people, and because of what I've seen so far as CSW 61, but we're still working to better understand the unique challenges facing members of the LGBTQ community, which is why I look forward to the conversation today, to the gifts and perspectives that our panel brings, and hopefully you'll take the opportunity to not just get to know each other, during your stay here, but to come up to us and to share our stories with you so that we can take them back to our communities in Canada. So thank you again for your incredible work. We have colleagues like Mark Saray who are reminders of why it's important to include men and boys in this conversation, connect with them, and have an inspiring and informative time here.